There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
All right, Hunter Man, here we are.
Back.
We're back. What is this, 97?
97, episode 97.
All right.
We're creeping up to that 100 mark.
Sweet. I mean, Rob says he's ecstatic, so
Love it.
hey, love the energy. All right, so we're doing under wraps. We're here in the penthouse and in Florida.
Under the wraps.
That's it. It's hopefully everybody's, actually I think I did see a little bit of snow across the country in some parts today. So, yeah, sorry to hear that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's, no,
We
we're
got
not.
some rain. I don't know.
Yeah, it has been raining pretty hard here.
Yeah.
All right, so episode 97. What are we doing?
So, under wraps, right? We're going
Okay.
to talk about, obviously, what they are, why you would use them,
Okay.
what type of rods you would use them on. That'll be kind of the basic intro to it. And then we're going to go into, how to lay out these wraps.
Yep.
Whether you want to have, excess on the sides of your guide feet, or you want that under wrap to be kind of covered on both sides and just show in the middle section of your double foot guide.
Yep.
And then, obviously, we're going to, is that what you're looking for?
That's what I was like.
You're going to show us how to actually wrap an under wrap.
Am I?
And then, yeah. That's what they got you down for. So.
Okay. All right.
We got a little cut in with Mr. Mullet Man himself, Jake. He's going to show us how to do a little bit of a fade wrap incorporated into the under wrap.
Yeah.
And then we got at the very end of the show, we're going to go over a couple more decorative ideas for you guys.
For sure. We got a little what to do and even a what not to do. This one doesn't have as many what not to do's as some. But there is a little what not to do. So I'm sure the question will come up at some point, but we're also going to cover what not to do. And as Hunter said, we do have a little bit of abalone here on the table. It's not an abalone show, but you can use abalone as an under wrap. So, and we'll tell you why and how to do that. So, got a little bit of housekeeping.
Always.
Recently, we had an advanced seminar here at Mudhole World Headquarters and sold out.
Sold out.
And it had a number of vendors.
Yes.
So Fuji, Anglers Resource was here.
Yep. Had a couple guys from Anglers Resource, including Bill Faulkner.
We can never forget Bill.
Who
So
did
he
some,
was
who did
good
some demos. Yeah,
Yep. And then we had, from down the way, we had American Tackle. They were here showing off some cool stuff, some of their G2 and carbon fiber stuff, among guides and all that other stuff from their entire portfolio of rod building components and blanks and such. Billy was here.
Yeah.
Showing off
The wizard himself.
all the cool things that he does. Of course, Bob McCamey was here. I think he was he more of an MC, maybe a host?
Oh, absolutely.
Slash bartender, slash
whatever you want him to be. Yeah.
the governor. Of,
Star of the show.
That's it. That's it. So Bob was here. So yeah, it was a great event, and thank you for everybody that showed up for that. I think it was a good time.
Absolutely.
We've got some new stuff. You want to jump right into new products?
So
Coming right out of the creative department.
I think actually let's go with this nice blue one here.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of this
Yeah, big fan.
blue shirt. The nice whoa, watch out,
You're
flying
good.
stuff.
You're good.
The nice built not bought. So we got the front there with the yellow accent, and then the built not bought on the back side.
All right.
Sharp looking shirt there. That's one of 5 different ones we have. And of course, I could show you all of them, but it would take a few minutes. And then my second favorite, got to show the Don't Thread on Me.
I thought I was going to have your face on it. You said it was your favorite, so I thought maybe.
That's coming soon.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So it's got the cool little snake with holding the guide foot on there. Don't thread on me.
Cool.
Cool little play on words there.
Why not?
So That's 2 of 5 designs we got. Might be giving one away later in the show.
Are we gonna do
maybe,
that?
maybe I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe. We'll see.
Well, you know, you're paying for it.
Yeah,
so
right.
Whatever it is.
But like I said, 5 designs total. We got them in sizes small through 3X.
Okay.
Got the full range.
Got the full range.
Men's
Perfect.
sizes. Might
Yeah.
have some ladies apparel coming a little
Yeah.
bit down the road.
Well, I mean, you know, the ladies can wear it, but it's
They
just.
can. Yeah. And then, so switching gears a little bit,
Okay.
we've got some new startup kits that we've introduced.
We do.
Yeah. So,
And it's gonna it's got the core wrapper in it, right?
yeah. So we did.
All right.
We have 2 different startup kits now. So one features the core hand wrapper, which we've named the core startup kit.
Okay.
Put a lot of thought into that one. And then we also have the advanced startup kit, which features the advanced hand wrapper, the 2-spool advanced hand wrapper.
Okay.
So
Which one we got on the table over there?
So the one we have on the table over here is the core startup kit. So we really just pared this down to the essentials that you need. You got a hand wrapper, you got your rod dryer.
you have the
got
core hand wrapper.
core hand wrapper. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, did I say the advanced hand wrapper?
No, but I think you said hand wrapper. I just want to make sure we
core
were.
hand wrapper.
Yep.
We got a rod dryer, some masking tape, a couple of small tools, accessories. We got a PK24 for your rod finish, some small little kit of Pro Paste, a couple reamers, guide tubing, brushes, and an alcohol burner.
Sweet.
So you really have the bare bone essentials to build your first rod. And actually, you could, get away with probably at least maybe 2 to 4 rods with that epoxy.
I would think so, yeah. And it's interesting because, I mean, right now, 7.5 minutes in, we've got almost 250 people watching. And it is interesting because we have people that come into the show that have never built a fishing rod before at all.
Right.
You might have some people that are like, they don't participate yet, but they do a lot of lurking.
Yeah.
They're kind of starting to learn. Maybe maybe they watch the live show. Maybe they've been scoping us out on YouTube, things like that. So we try to do a lot of, a range of things on the show, whether it's an under wrap or whether it's, reaming handles or doing things like that. But CRB does a really great job of coming out with products from the whole gamut, right?
Right.
Super advanced people, or for the people that just want to jump right in to this, the G2 Power Wrapper, or for those that maybe want to buy a kit for a young rod builder or somebody that's never built a rod before. I mean, I don't know if we've got anybody in here tonight that has literally never built a fishing rod. But, maybe you'll learn, maybe you'll pick up a few things here. But the core hand wrapper is something that's great for that. Whether you're on the move tournament guy,
Right.
Whether you got a youth angler that wants to build rods, or maybe you just kind of not unsure, but maybe like, all right, well, I don't want to drop $1,000 on this yet.
Yeah.
Get your core hand wrapper kit and CRB rod building kit, everything that's included, and you're ready to rock.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yep. So that covers the core startup kit. That thing retails for $120, so super affordable.
Okay.
We also have, like I said, the advanced startup kit. You get a couple, not even a couple, you get many more parts and pieces, supplies or come in larger quantities, and obviously you get the advanced hand wrapper. That one with all the goodies that go inside of it is $199, so a little bit higher price point.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we've kind of phased out, if you guys are familiar with our FSB-2 startup kit, we've essentially phased that out and brought in 2 new startup kits to, kind of facilitate 2 different price points, just depending on what you want to get into rod building.
Sounds good. I did bring a box up. Grab that box right there.
Okay.
That was the one that was in it. All right, so this is how it's going to come. Core rod building startup kit. It's the one that's over there. And this is going to be on you. We're not even doing a random one here. Looks like maybe Eric Vergara from Facebook. Hopefully you weren't kidding, Eric, and you haven't built a fishing rod, but you're into it, so you're going to be really into it now because it's going to come to you.
Sweet.
Hunter McCamey, you're going to buy that one for him right there.
All right.
So
Congrats with Eric.
we'll get
right?
that. We'll get that headed your way, Eric. Congratulations, buddy.
Sweet.
Why not?
Why not?
We're episode 97. We're going to start slinging some stuff. How about that? We also, speaking of rod kits, We have some, you could call them a Pro Staff rod kit. You could call them a Signature Series rod kit. Whatever you want to call them. Terry Scroggins Pro Bass Angler.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
One over $2.5 million. He really knows what's up. He sat down with the team here and was like, this is exactly how I build it. I want that handle, I want that reel seat, I want that grip, I want those guides, and I want them spaced like that. And we've got his kits on mudhole.com right now. They're going to be the Terry Scroggins Signature Series kit. There's also a blog in there that somebody may have wrote that talks about all that. And that is straight from Terry Scroggins' mouth, the big show, talking about exactly what he uses for each one of his rod kits, how he fishes, why he likes it, and why he picked it. So that'll give you a little insight, because if you're somebody that likes to throw a big weight, flip a big weight around,
Yep.
he's got one of those. If you're somebody that likes to do a chatterbait, you know, and let's be honest, you don't win $2.5 million fishing professionally without picking up a spinning rod. You know, you can call it what you want. Some of the times the guys down here in Florida like to turn their nose up at a finesse setup, maybe a spinning rod. If you're a freshwater guy, you know, the saltwater guys do a spinning rod a lot. But I can promise you Terry's won plenty of money with a spinning rod.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a DSA 22, which
I think so.
it's pretty sweet.
Yep.
So that kit's in there. So anyway,
Yeah.
we got more giveaways coming later.
For
Tell them
sure,
about those.
For sure, yep. So one of our next giveaways, our third place prize for tonight will be a trim band creation kit. Second place prize is going to be a 18 spool thread kit from ProWrap. Get a nice mix of metallic and I'm assuming we're just going to say your choice of nylon or color fast. And then grand prize for tonight, we've got a decorative thread wrap assortment.
Okay.
Which we're just gonna throw a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah,
Put
some
a
of the
good assortment
colors.
together.
I think what we'll do is we went through the showroom earlier, and we were like, oh, that rod build, because we do have a really cool, those that have been here, the showroom downstairs is like a rod building museum of sort from, we have some really cool builds from builders that are incredible. How many times can I say build and builders in the same sentence? Anyway, so we will go through and, you know, maybe take a little inspiration from a few of those downstairs and pick some colors that kind of go together, and we'll put them all together. Maybe we'll even throw in some abalone. Why not?
Yeah.
All right. We got all the housekeeping out of the way, and we got almost 300 people here still with us 13 minutes in. Let's talk about why do you need or why you should have an underwrap on a rod build.
Yeah, so let's, we've actually got a really cool animated graphic that we're gonna overlay here in a second that's gonna give a better, kind of a better visual of why you need.
Yeah, we all like pictures.
Yeah, you know, I love when you draw on the whiteboard.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites.
Is it? Well, you might get to see it tonight, but this is better. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say better.
Okay.
It's just different. All right, let's go that way.
Well, this is coming from one of the extremely talented mudholians here.
Yes.
Celia.
Yes.
And she does some of the coolest stuff, from working with CAD and 3D printing and design, just all kinds of cool stuff. So anyway, shout out to her. We've got a rod blank here with, you're looking at a guide.
Double foot spinning guide. So we did a spinning version, which in my opinion gives a better representation of why you would want to do an underwrap. So
Okay.
What we're going to do here, Phil, if you want to roll it, I'll explain it kind of quickly. So the idea here is take away the thread, right? Give this rod a deflection, and you're going to see that if this is a very rigid guide, it creates these contact points.
It hurts looking at it, right?
It does, yeah.
It kind of looks like the guy that's got like the red in his back, like is just like, oh, do you need a leave?
Yep.
You know?
So, when you're dealing with heavier rods with guide feet that are very rigid, you're going to see, if you do not have an underwrap, this is what could potentially happen. You're going to get these guide feet that have very rigid endpoints that are going to dig in, possibly, into your rod blank. So the idea for the underwrap is to essentially create a little bit of a barrier between your rod blank and these guide feet to kind of soften that blow a little bit.
Yeah.
So you don't have these, so you don't have the, the back pain or the red spots that you see there.
For sure. And that's just one of those deals that you're going to create, you know, like you said, a barrier where, because let's keep in mind, the guide feet are metal. And usually when metal is fighting against carbon or graphite, carbon fiber, whatever you want to call it, when you've got metal fighting against graphite, usually the metal's going to win.
Definitely.
So especially when it's flexing and coming back straight and flexing, and you know, it might start to rub it, it might start to splinter it, cut it. I mean, if maybe you, when you're prepping your guide feet, like we're all supposed to do, maybe you get a little burr on there, maybe there's a little bit of boo-boo, maybe you prepped it so good and sharp so that it just runs right up the guide foot, got a little aggressive.
Exactly.
And now you're going to start digging into that rod blank. Yep. So we're going to hopefully keep that from happening with an underwrap.
Yeah, and again, this is more for your heavier, you know, freshwater rods, guys that are going after muskie or, you know, heavy catfish rods. This isn't for an ultralight or a medium or a medium heavy.
Yep.
This is more so on your heavier freshwater side and specifically on your saltwater side.
Yep.
Whether it's offshore tuna rod, even a tarpon rod, you know, there's a case in point to be made, and again, not for your inshore, you know, flats rods. Don't really need underwraps in that scenario. It's more of those heavier, extra heavy 2X, 3X applications. When you're dealing with guides,
like a turbo,
this guide has zero. I'm not going to say zero. Very, very minimal flex, right? Like, can barely move those. You put this guide, which is very rigid, on a rod blank, and that rod blank deflects. Sorry, I'll go back there real quick. Sorry about that.
Chasing you around a little.
Yeah. So, you know, this rod blank is going to deflect, but this guide is not going to have a lot of flex. That's where the underwrap is very, very useful.
Yeah, and you know, this here is something that you would see. Thorium 20HG, turbos, got turbos all the way out. We're going to bring in an underwrap, okay? And this is going to be a situation of you're going to add a little bit of bling with something that is very useful in terms of an underwrap. You know, it's going to work with, you got a little bit of decorative thread work here. It's going to work out. The blank is a gloss black blank, so it's going to transition out really nicely. And for those that are maybe like a UCF Knights fan, I think you might have gone there.
I did.
And so this one really looks nice. This might be you know, something that Pegasus might fly around with, right? So yeah, that's going to be an exact, you know, an example of having some underwraps on some turbos and something that you can really lean on, right? Like you said, you don't need this if you're fishing like 4-pound class stuff. This is all 50 wides and such.
Of course, we don't have any smaller guides up here, but you guys will notice, like, you know, aside from a turbo guide, you know, if we're dealing with like a size 10 or a size 12 double foot, or even.
Well, this is actually a good example, and this is why I grabbed this.
Okay.
So, here you go. Tell them about here. This is purely decorative.
It is. This, in my opinion, this is we'll just say it's a medium power freshwater rod, right?
Oh, it's something.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. You know, this is a size probably 12 double foot guide down to probably a 10 and some 8s and maybe some 6s or 7s. In a case like this, for this specific rod, underwraps are overkill. Not to say that you can't use them, because if you want to add a little bit of decorative under there, by all means, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to kill the performance of your rod. It might.
Yeah, we're not going to come out there and slap it out of your hand.
Yeah, it might hinder the slightest bit of performance. Nothing you're going to notice though.
Okay.
This is purely decorative. It works. You can do it, but in this case, in this rod scenario, you don't need to have it if you don't want to.
Sure. Cool. There it is. All righty. We are, let's see, not quite on the giveaway. Let me look. There's some questions coming in. I want to take a couple of these questions here real quick. Some I'm going to save for the, what is it, the lightning round or the, Phil, what do we call that thing? Rapid fire. I was gonna say I couldn't remember if it was because I knew it was 7 minutes as you know, like 7 minutes in question heaven or something. Like I don't know what it was. All right, so rapid fire. So let me cover this because this is getting asked a lot. Coming out of Mike Foster from YouTube. Do you wrap the base wrap with A or D? All right. So for those that don't know, Mike is referring to the size of thread. Size A is going to be, well, not technically the smallest because there's some silks that I think are smaller than A, but for this question, A is the smallest and D is the biggest. Okay? Yep, there's some variations in there, but we'll just call it A is the smallest and D is the biggest. You really need to pay attention to whether you're using A or D if you are not going to put finish on your underwrap first. I am somebody that likes to put finish down. The reason for that is for the same reason that a lot of people put multiple thin coats of finish on their guide wraps. They feel like they get better coverage, a cleaner look, a better finished product rather than just hoping for the best with one, pass of finish. I do it for a couple different reasons. After I lay everything out and I wrap, I come through and I put finish on all of the underwraps. Most of the time I'm building like multiples of these, so I'll go through and wrap all the underwraps and I'm not having to like come back and then wrap guides and things like that. I will just go through and run and do all underwraps. If I'm only doing a couple underwraps in the front and then maybe it drops to some single footers, I don't do that. But if I'm building a whole fleet, a whole set of rods, I'll go through and just do all the underwraps and I'll come back and I will do a thin coat of finish. Now, when I say a thin coat of finish, I don't mean like just enough to like wet the threads. I mean, we're coating them, okay? Not to where you can feel the thread on it. So just like you would cover a decal. It needs to cover the thread nice and level. I want it to be as perfectly flat and even and ready to put a guide foot then on top of that. The reason that you don't have to worry about the size there is now, whether it's A or D on the base, then you're going to come back, you're going to wrap the guide on top of a finished underwrap. It's just like wrapping it on the rod blank. You don't have to worry about it. The reason that you have to worry about not wrapping size A on top of size D is A is considerably thinner than D, and it will cut in between. So if these are your thread marks, size A runs up to that and it jumps up on size D and it is going to cut in between all of your guide wraps, okay? So it's going to create gaps in your thread, it's not going to lay tight and all that stuff. There's a couple ways you can combat that. One, the way that I do it with finish. Some people put color preserver. If you've been a member of this show for maybe the last 96 episodes, you know I'm not a lover of color preserver, but I do the finish. Another reason I do the finish is because when I come back after I wrap a guide, after I come back and wrap a guide, I don't have to get underneath. This is one hell of a guide here, okay? This is an AB1 carbon fiber frame. This underwrap had finish on it before I set this guide on it and wrapped over the top of it with blue, okay? The reason is this is, like I said, tough to get under here and make sure it's level and all that. You can do it for sure, but I wanted to be sure that this section underneath this guide was clean and smooth and as perfect as I could get it, because this ended up on one of the covers of the magazine and they were breathing over my shoulder the whole time I was doing this. So I didn't want to booger this one up. So I laid down finish under here, then came back and wrapped, and then I really only had to worry about from about here out. I wanted to get finish under here, but I didn't want to have to worry about a bunch of finish in here. And you can see I feel like I did an okay job there, right? So that's why I would put finish on that in here and not just put a ton of finish all at one time, okay? Cool. Sweet. Mike Foster, that was the 7-minute answer to your question, but I wanted to cover that because I think I've seen that question in here about 8 or 9 times and it'll probably come up again later, but it's one of those things. We'll shout out to Jason here real quick. Went to the showroom this morning.
Cool.
Picked up some epoxy and was great service. Jason, coming out of YouTube, sweet. That's awesome, man. Let's see. I'll hit this one real quick and we'll move on. Michael, is it more with double-footed guides? Double guide feet, double-footed guides. Yeah. We're typically using it on double footers because of what we showed you in Celia's graphic representation of what can happen with a double-footed guide. You really don't have it as much with a single footer. It can happen if you're really like wrenching on it, but I just don't see it happen as much. And typically, if you're going to be putting that much force on a rod blank, you're not going to have a tuna stick with a Fuji high frame, single-footed, 25H on there, right? KW or whatever. Right. So, double footers, yeah.
Yeah. And this, obviously, our animated graphic was for a spinning rod, but this is conventional as well. Casting, conventional, and also spinning, as long as there's a double foot guide involved.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about all that. Let's give something away.
Let's do it.
And then we'll get down to some nitty gritty.
All right. Giveaway number 1. Well, technically 2 of the night.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thanks. Trim band creation kit. So this is going to be some metallic thread. I think there's a couple tools in there. Let's get a winner. What do we got here?
Mm-hmm. Run that thing, Uncle Phil. Oh, I saw some names in there that you're not going to be able to pronounce correctly, so I really hope.
Oh, I'm sure it'll pick one.
Oh.
Melvin Eversole.
That's okay.
Yeah, nice.
Easy.
Out of YouTube.
Coming out of YouTube, Melvin.
Nice, Melvin.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
That'll work. That will work. All right, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything, and then we'll move on. Mike Foster said, thanks for the clarity. So, yeah, there we go. 7 minutes of our question answer work. All right.
Let's have of our next demo.
Yeah. Let's talk about laying these things out. Showcasing under wraps. We need to talk about some basics. I did already kind of cover the
it's okay.
what to do, what not to do, but we might even do that. So anyway, you're going to be wrapping an under wrap under the guide feet.
Right.
Okay. And actually, I think you were so excited about it, I can't let you down. I got to go to the whiteboard.
Oh.
We're going to do the whiteboard?
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, the whiteboard it is. Make sure, can we see? All right, cool. So, and people do this a little differently. Well, not the whiteboard, but the under wrap. So, you've got a rod blank here. And you've got some guide feet here and here. All right? So your under wrap is going to go the entire length here. The under wrap is really not necessarily just from here to here. So when we say it needs to be underfoot, we're running it really the whole length of the guide foot.
Right.
Now in reality, it's not necessary. You could certainly hide it underfoot, but then it's like it takes away from the opportunity to add a little decorative stuff in there.
For sure.
Now, you can go through, and Jake, Professor Mullet, will be in here a little bit later to show us how he kind of marks this off. He gets a lot more decorative into this. I can do it, I just don't do it, because most of the time I'm like ready to go fishing and not, building rods to sell. But so what I will typically do is, when I set this guide onto the rod blank, I'm going to mark where the front of this foot is and then the front of this foot, right? Now, I give myself a little bit of room here. If you mark it perfect and you're like 2 wraps off and you're short, don't be short, okay? If you're a little long, that's cool because we're going to put an overwrap on it. So if this is where your guide foot is, I may be coming out here where I start and coming out here where I start, okay? And then we're going to wrap this whole section here, okay? Then when we set this foot on top of it, I'll slide out with an overwrap. We got two colors.
Yeah, it changed colors.
I've got to change colors. So then we jump out here and we start this color wrap because you are going to want to jump onto the underwrap before you jump onto the guide foot. Now, the what not to do portion of this is we've got our rod blank again. We got our guide feet again. Okay. That's a turbo.
Ah, okay.
All right. Just so we're clear. Just so we're clear. What not to do is don't be short. Like I said, don't be short. Don't be short. Because now the distance here, when the guide foot comes down on it, it's like why we prep guide feet. Because if your guide foot is not sitting nicely on that rod blank, now you're trying to jump from the rod blank all the way up onto the guide foot and not getting the little here's a little leg up, here's a little step going from the blank to the underwrap to the guide, and it really makes for a nice transition there.
Right.
So that's another reason why that I put finish on my underwraps, because it just keeps it from digging into the thread, one. Two, you don't have to worry about what size. If you got a certain color purple and you want to use it, but you don't have it in A or you don't have it in D or whatever, I'm still going to use the purple if I want to use it. You don't have to worry about it, right? So if you want to do a little decorative in here, okay, I will say you mark this mark, you mark this mark, set the guide down, and you're going to want a center mark here, halfway in between your feet, all right? Now keep in mind, there are times where the guide is off center, okay? And it happens a lot. So, well, that really erases well there. Sweet. It's like you guys gave me a Sharpie. Perfect. All right, well, sounds like we're ready for a new whiteboard. All right, so there's a lot of times where the guide foot is here, guide foot's here, and the guide looks like this. All right? So in this case, you got to make a decision. Do you want your decorative piece to be here, or do you want to be, over here in the middle? I'm going to go in the middle, but then you're off center of the guide. So I'll let y'all argue about that, however you want to do that. But keep in mind, you need to decide and pick the center of where that guide's going to stop, all right? And you need to pay attention to the fact that, now granted, this is not how this looks, so that's not there. Remember, your thread's going to stop here and here, so that's where you're going to measure your center from, right? And again, if you give yourself a little bit of room out here and a little bit of room out here, you've got a little wiggle room. Jake gives you later, he's going to give you a no wiggle room way of doing it. And it's a great way of doing it with a lot of different, different colors and stuff. But if this is your first time around and you maybe are a little nervous about making sure you can get it centered, if you just give yourself a little bit of wiggle room out on either side, you're going to be okay. All right? So there it is.
Lots of compliments about your whiteboard skills.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
You can scroll through them, but
about
lots
all
of good
that
stuff there.
So anyway, that is the layout. Now, when I'm laying it out on the rod blank, I like to use a Sharpie. The reason I use a Sharpie is because I can put the tiniest little dot. All right? Please be aware that if you're going to use things like white nylon and silk and some other stuff like that, do not use a Sharpie. Okay, you hear me? Don't use a Sharpie. If you're using like Color Fast and regular metallics and some things like that, you can get away with this. But you can have the Sharpie bleed, you can have the Sharpie show, you can do that. So be very careful with this Sharpie, all right? Otherwise, you will use your handy dandy China marker, okay, to make little tiny marks that you're going to be working over the top of it, so you don't have to put big giant marks on it. You're going to want tiny little marks, and because you are going to run your wrap up to that mark or stop a little bit short, you still have enough room to take a thread burnishing tool or your fingernail and just erase that little tiny China mark, okay? The Sharpie, you can't do that, all right? I mean, you could take alcohol and stuff and erase it, but, you know, just be aware. So if you want to play it safe, use a China marker, or you can use like a regular number 2 pencil. It's just when you have a clear-coated blank like this one here, this is an SJ842 metallic seafoam, the pencil's not going to do much on this rod blank, okay? If you've got a slate blank that doesn't have a really, really glossy coat on it, you can get away with a pencil. And a pencil's great, but white China marker or Sharpie, just please be careful. I don't want hate mail about like, oh my gosh, I was using that and then I used silk and then it ruined it because I warned you. Yep, David, exactly. Alcohol takes Sharpie right off. It absolutely does. All right. So we'll show you here real quick of what I was talking about. And I'll get one of these big, giant...
40 out.
Yeah, I think that's what we got here. We got the old 40. All right. So we got is that what that is? Probably a 40, right?
Looks like a 40.
Sure.
Maybe 30. I'm not sure.
Whatever.
It's big.
All right. So we've got the guide where we want it to go. Okay? I'll put a little dot. Giving myself a little bit of a wiggle room there. Trying to hold this so you can kind of still see. And a dot. All right? Now, you can eyeball this if you want. I don't always recommend it. But we're going to go somewhere kind of right in there. Or we're going to use our CRB ruler. All right. So we're looking at 3 3/4. Or we are looking at, yeah, we got centimeters on here too, right? 9 7/8, so a little short of 5, right?
Was good.
Sure, why not?
And how much extra do you think you added on each side? Because you didn't mark the.
Well, now you're really asking a lot of me, okay?
Oh, come on. What do you think, an 1/8 of an inch, 16th?
Yeah, probably a 16th.
Just a little bit on each
You know,
side,
maybe
right?
like 3 or 4 thread wraps, right? Yeah, not a ton, but that's your layout, okay? And I have the center mark. Now, remember, you don't have to put a trim band in there, right? You can do 1, you can do 2. This is one I built here. I remember what I was telling you earlier about going from double footers and running out to single footers, right? So this is a CRB IS 761H. This is a great rod. We caught some big stripers when we were fishing in the Haba up in Boston with Big Fish Brian Coombs. So I wanted the blue and I matched it in here with the cross wraps and such. I just did one solid blue across here, broke it up with a little bit of that kind of champagne, that pen champagne kind of color, that satin gold that I like.
Sharp.
Yep, put finish on it, dropped it back down, ran blue again. You know, it's not, I'm not winning any awards with this thing, but I thought it looked pretty sharp and it does the job for what it needs to do. So that's what your under wrap with a single band looks like there. All right? Cool. Now, we have marked guide ring location, marked guide feet location. This would be the time, that if you're going to do any other kind of crazy, designs, or you're going to add something inside here, you want 2 lines, you want 1, you need to mark that. Because if you only mark the center, all right, you're going to have to figure out, well, I want to put 2 marks, but not 1, but not this. So depending on if you want to come off of center, and give a 1/4 of an inch on either side, and you can do 2 bands, this is where all your layout starts. It's kind of like when we use the CRB butt wrap alignment tool.
Right.
And we start putting marks before we start putting the pedal to the metal on this thing.
Yep.
This is where everything needs to happen. And then once you have everything laid down, a lot of the times I will come through and make a note and say, not on the rod blank, but I'll have a piece of paper and I'll have little things drawn that says, this piece is purple, this is blue, this is blue, this is purple, this is blue, things like that. It just helps you when you start to get in a rhythm. You start pulling wrong colors and you're going to have to start cutting stuff off. So, yes.
Cool.
All right.
Easy enough.
Sure, why not? Are we already on we're already on another giveaway, right?
We are.
You want to let's do a shirt first. Let's do a shirt first before we start slinging some spool and thread and stuff.
Do it.
That's it.
We'll do your choice of a design.
Okay.
So we got 5, right? So,
Yeah. We got 5. We'll let somebody pick a little shirt giveaway. We're only going to send you a small though, and you have to wear it. No, we're not going to do that. So let's get a number here. And if Sean Chaney wins it, then nope.
Randy Douglas.
Randy Douglas.
Out of
Cool.
Facebook.
Coming out of Facebook.
Nice.
That's it. I was going to say we'd have to then it would do 2 shirts or we'd do a gift card as we normally do. All right. On the bottom of the screen there, you will see you have to email me at live@mudhole.com. If you've got some good things to say, some bad things to say, or if you just say, hey, my name's Randy Douglas at, randy.internet/.com, whatever it is, that's how I know how to get a hold of you, get your size, get the shirt. So Randy, just tell me. Go on mudhole.com after. Don't do it right now because you're going to leave. But we'll pick you out a shirt and we'll get it headed your way. All right?
Cool.
Cool.
All right, and then we need to you want to do a couple questions, or you want to jump into the second giveaway?
Let me do just a couple questions here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Just real quick. Sporty, would tape work as well as an underwrap? No. Now, it would, but at that point, you just need to just use plain finish. And that's something that we really didn't cover, because you can use marbling or you can just put you a coat of finish on the rod blank, really.
In reality, yeah.
To give you a little bit of cushion. Now, granted, the thread and all of that is going to do more to protect it, but I wouldn't just, take some old blue painter's tape and run it up underneath there. So yeah, I would definitely use thread or abalone or snakeskin or marbling or rod finish. Okay. Let's see. This question here from Rob: an underwrap for only 1 section. Rob, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. If you mean by just under 1 guide foot, yes, you could do that. That would just barely fit there. So you could technically do an underwrap on 1 foot and then jump up and finish that foot out. You're just not going to have anything in the middle, which is also fine. If that's what you mean, that's perfectly okay. Or if an underwrap for only 1 section, maybe you were talking about just double foots and then single foots out here and things like that. So yeah, we could do that too. Yeah, man, Edward just wants to know what's in your cup, Hunter. You see how hydrated he is?
Yeah, it's water.
Would you put finish on abalone underwrap?
Definitely.
Always.
Absolutely, you have to. Got to protect that abalone.
You got to protect the abalone, and of course, the abalone is the adhesive on the back of that thing is incredibly good, but still got to put finish on it.
Yep.
All right, let's do a giveaway. Let's do it.
All right, so second giveaway, third giveaway of the night.
I was
Fourth
gonna say,
giveaway.
if you're-
Fourth. Well, you need to stop giving stuff away.
All right.
Anyway,
Well, it says tonight's second giveaway.
ProWrap 18 spool thread kit. And like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be your choice of color fast or nylon. What do we got? What do we got? Who do we got? Oh, Casting Custom Rods out of Facebook. Nice.
Perfect.
Nice,
Casting
nice,
custom
nice.
rods. Again, as you see at the bottom of the screen, live at mudhole.com to claim your prize. Stephen Mendoza, would you underwrap a heavy spinning guide? Yes, you can absolutely do that. The one I showed where we were in the Haba in Boston catching stripers, this guy right here. And it's perfectly okay and normal to go from heavy spinning rod, double footers, and then jump out here to some single 8s.
Yep.
And you'll see here there are no underwraps on these single foot 8s right there. All right.
You know, I really like the little color combo you did with same color.
Oh, you're too nice. You're just saying that because we're live.
No.
All right. What we got now?
All right, we have.
We're gonna wrap this thing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the last part of it.
You gonna wrap it, or you gonna stand there and watch me wrap?
I'm just gonna watch you.
Perfect.
You're just so good at it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You just gotta. Yeah. I'm
No
just
big deal.
gonna-
Just a
no.
couple hundred people watching.
No. 355. That's nothing. That's the good part. They actually tune in to see me mess this thing up. I got this little. What do we got here? The RBS,
The thread runner,
the thread runner
rolling thread runner, which I know these were.
is awesome.
We released these month-ish ago, however long it was. Sold out very fast.
I was gonna say, am I
So
showing something I shouldn't show?
We're waiting for a restock, which will hopefully be this week.
All right. You heard it here, folks. Heard it here first, folks. I will usually jump right on top of the
Can we take
mark.
this band off? or
No.
Is it good?
No. You know, if you're not gonna help.
Okay, you know, I'll just be quiet.
All right, so we've got the thread runner on here. I still like to put my hand on it because not that I don't trust it, I just don't trust me. And another pro tip is make sure that your marks are big enough that you can see them and not so small that you can't see them. I'm going to kind of supplement this one here. Ooh. I have no idea what color this is. Is this a glow?
It might be.
Maybe so. All right. You also have to be thinking about, what kind of decorative piece am I going to do in here, okay? If you're going to do a decorative piece like I was showing you earlier that probably has 7, 8, 9 wraps in it, I'm going to stop this wrap. I am then going to lay down another 7, 8, 9, 10 wraps, stop that wrap, and start the other one. Now, I like to start and stop, on the bottom of the blank, so that when you're looking at the guides, if it's a conventional rod, you're not really like looking at where you start and stop if you leave any kind of gap. And opposite for spinning, I would do it on the other side so you can kind of hide it a little bit. But keep in mind, you're going to have to, where your mark is, you're going to have to leave maybe 3 turns of thread for where you terminate this wrap, right? I'm going to do just one more, just looking at how much room is there. then I'm going to make sure that this is as a hard edge as possible, okay? Because I want to make sure that the transition to, we'll call it purple, is going to be as clean as we possibly can. Because if you get lazy and not get to burnishing and keeping really wavy edges and such on your transitions, it's really going to show. Okay? And I'm doing it, I mean, I'm not super just lightning quick with all of this, but I'm trying to do it at least a little so you guys can follow along and make snide remarks where they're necessary.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So if you were really paying attention, you would be counting how many wraps we've got. Okay. Now the good news about if we're doing this on a spinning rod, you're also going to most likely be making varying widths of trim pieces, okay? The reason I say that is if you start with a 40 or whatever this is, right? You're not going to run 40s out. So the gap in here is going to be getting narrower as it goes out. I am somebody that likes to proportionally change my trim piece accordingly, okay? So if I've got however many inches in between here, and I wanted X number of, this is a quarter. Yep, dead on a quarter. So if this is on a quarter, and it goes, we'll call this a 40, if it goes 40, 20, 10, or 12, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Just whatever, right? I am not going to go a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, because the size gap is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you're going to be losing this gray color while you're maintaining the same width of the purple. And to me, I don't think it looks right. But again, what do I know, right? So just keep that in mind as you're planning and you're doing your layout and you're measuring and you're doing all those things. And if you want a quarter of an inch and then like maybe 2 turns short of a quarter, and or count your wraps, and you can do that with a test wrap. You can have it wrapped and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's this long. So you go 10 here, and then you go 8 here, and then you go 6 there. And then maybe it stops. Mm-hmm. Maybe you run down to some single footers or whatever. I'm just, either getting ahead of some questions, or just when it pops into my head, it's, coming out of my mouth. And that's the problem, is usually that's what gets me in trouble, but I'm trying to help everybody out here, That person that's supposed to be guarding, is gone home for the night. All right, so we tried to keep a really, really sharp edge with the purple and with the grays. Get it nice and tight. And yes, there's a gap in there, but try not to keep y'all here till midnight. People got hot pockets they got to get to eating.
You got that right.
I know, Hunter's a hot pocket man. You're recently married, though. She ought to be doing something better than hot pockets, right?
Yeah, we don't eat hot pockets. Come on.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Come on. I know your wife is. She's better than that. Now you on the other hand.
No. We both actually chip in for the cooking. We both do pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, I saw your lunch today. Yeah, you're quite the gourmet, that's for sure.
Well, lunch is a little different story.
Sure. I get better at holding my breath longer and longer the more we do these shows. It's like, oh no. I even almost just boogered that one up.
You got it.
I got it. That's why we keep you around here, honey. You keep the positivity going.
Mm-hmm. Looking good.
Sure.
And that's it.
A sharp edge here.
And it only took a couple minutes. You even added some trim in the middle. So, you know, in reality.
Yeah, and there I was running my mouth a little too.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you know, you could have simply just taken that first wrap and continued all the way to the end.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I could just let her eat.
And just be done with it.
Yeah, for sure.
But
right,
the trim does add a little good
Of course it does,
accent.
and that's why we're
piece.
doing this, right?
What you need?
All right, so I'm going to tape this on here just so you can see it. All right, so it's actually pretty close. See that. All right, so I've got almost exactly 5 in there. Yep. That can come just a tiny little bit that way. Cool. Now remember, you can use a ruler, or if you're not doing too wide of wraps, hand me that digital caliper over there. On the wall, pegboard, up, yep,
Got it.
yep.
I can
All right.
see.
Or you can get your digical out. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, pretty much like I said, we can call it pretty much 50 millimeters there. That'll be close enough. Then we run it down here to 25. Whoop. You know, we got math on here. And yeah, we're right in the middle. Cool. So there's your layout, okay? Very basic, very plain, but the good news is you can do this like 100 different ways, okay? And then you can see here, just like I was telling you, I have wiggle room out on these outside edges, all right? Now I've got more wiggle room out here, okay, than I do on this side. But remember, when you're wrapping over something like a 40, you're probably going to start off the rod blank a little bit, right? Or off, you know, off the guide foot and down the rod blank a little bit. What I like to do is, now that we are ready to do this, I start wrapping the longer side first. So this foot out here has got more overhang, okay? So now keep in mind, I've already put finish on this, right? The magic of Mud Hole Live, there's already finish on here, okay? So now I'm coming back, I'm putting my guide back down, I'm making sure everything is ready to go. I'm going to start wrapping, and I'm going to wrap this foot. Then I am going to measure the wrap on this foot. We'll call it, if I was going to do that one, it looks like almost exactly 23 millimeters, or 0.905 for those that want to know that measurement. Not that you really need to know that measurement, but 23 on that side. Just going to take it and turn it over, and we're going to go to this side, and we're going to do the same right there, all right? That means we're going to have the same amount of space here, the same amount of space here, and all the same amount of space under here. So then it's going to be nice and, you know, easy on the eyes because we're going to have all equal parts, okay? So there you go.
Cool.
So that's it. And that's exactly right. This guy right here, Sumo Sten, I personally prefer doing a coat of epoxy on the underwrap before putting guides on it. My kind of person right there. That's me. I love to put coat of finish on it. Then we're going to come back and we're going to wrap on top of it. All right?
Cool.
So there it is. All right, now I've missed the, there we go. All right, cool. This one is a good one. Michelle Clark. How long do you wait for epoxy to dry? So, if you're using a high build, you can get away with a little bit shorter time, okay? If you are using a lighter build, you gotta let it go a little longer. What I tend to do is I get everything ready if I'm doing multiple rods or even if I'm doing one. I get everything ready, I put finish on it, and go to bed. All right? Now, I don't put finish on it and throw my brush away and walk right in and dive in bed. I give it about 30 minutes before I walk away from it because I want to make sure that the bubbles are out, that it's level, that it's, I never, ever put finish on anything on a rod, whether it's a hook keeper, a decal, thread wraps, none of it. I never just put the brush down and go, yep, looks good, and then leave for 8 hours. I always give it 20, 30 minutes, give it one last look over, because if there's something that jumped off, something that's out of place, something, you can at least do an emergency fix before then you got to come back and start cutting stuff off. So put it on, give it 8 hours, and then come back and get your guide feet on and wrap and things like that. You really, really, under normal conditions, you should be good after, 8, 12 hours. If you want to let it go 24, if you're working a regular job, put it on before you go to bed, wake up, look at it again, set it aside, come back and wrap in the evening, and you're good to go. So there you go. Yeah. I just don't think you always need to wait 24 hours.
I don't either.
But then again, that's the old trick of leaving the finish in the cup, Yeah. Don't throw the cup and the brush away. Then you can touch the cup and not have to put your fingerprints on that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right.
Moving on.
Okay. Yes.
I think, yeah.
No, I know. I'm just messing with you. All right. So that is a simplistic way of doing it. That's the basic. Okay. If you want to get you a trim band on there, you can use metallic, whatever. That's how I measure it out. That's how I lay it out. It's not the only way to do it, and it's not the only way that I do it. But that is a very basic, getting an underwrap down, getting you a centered little trim piece in there. You can put trim bands on the outside of your overwraps when you're done, and you're ready to rock. But get you a fresh drink, get you some popcorn ready, because we got the mullet man. Jake is coming in here with a cutaway. He's going to do something really, really cool. I'm a fade wrap guy. He is an underwrap and a fade wrap guy. So he is going to walk you through, and if you ain't got a pen and a pad, you might want to get a pen and a pad, because he is going to walk you through an advanced underwrap with some fade wraps, how to start and stop things, how to change colors, whereas I just would wrap, terminate, start, wrap, terminate, start, wrap, turn, like that. He goes through and jumps in with some little pieces and things like that. So pay attention, and we'll come back in about 4 hours when he's done. And then, no, it's not that long. We're going to come back in a few minutes, and he's going to give you guys a tutorial here on an advanced one. So we'll see you back just in a few minutes. It's mullet time. Let's run that thing.
My name is Jake Hutchison, and I love underwraps. There is so much you can do with underwraps, so many different variations, color choices, and even material choices that you can do to make an underwrap pop or look very simple and elegant. Today, we're going to show you something a little bit in the middle. A fade wrap on each side of the underwrap with a line in the middle to signify the middle of the guide and the underwrap. With that being said, let's get started. In my opinion, guide wraps with underwraps require 4 to 5 steps. The first would be spacing, the second would be wrapping, the third would be epoxying, the fourth would be wrapping over your guide feet, and the fifth would be epoxying however many times you go over the whole entire wrap. The most important part of the whole thing is the spacing. It will make or break your underwrap, and sometimes you won't know if you spaced it right till towards the end. The main 5 ways you can mark your spacing on your blank for your underwrap are a pen, a China marker with a pointed edge so you can get a fine line, a Sharpie marker in black or gray, or silver, which makes it a little bit easier to see, a pencil, which works in a lot of slate blanks, or anything really not metallic, a raw blank or a not metallic blank, or a little bit controversial, but a razor blade, kind of just etching on the blank, scratching it lightly, but not into the fibers where your underwraps will go and your spacing will go. To measure and space the guides, we're gonna need a CRB ruler and your marking tool of choice. Whatever you use to mark your blank, you're gonna wanna make very thin lines because these underwraps, I want them to be as precise as possible. Very specific measurements, so I need that line to be very accurate and right on money. Today I'm gonna use a pencil, and the first thing we do is mark the edges of the guide feet. Now we mark the inside of the guide feet right where our thread will end. Now we take our CRB ruler and measure from those inside guide foot points we just made. We don't do the outside because the back foot is almost always a little bit shorter than this front foot on most double foot guides. So we have to do this inside one because we're marking the middle. Our thread will end here and here. That will be our hard edge. So we need the middle of those 2 ends to be dead center. We're right at 1 11/16 inches, but to make that a little bit easier, we're gonna move the ruler to the left slightly to where it's right on the outside of each mark, and right on the outside of the far right mark is 1 3/4 inches. Now half of 1 3/4 inches is 7/8 inches. So we're gonna have 7/8 of an inch on this side and 7/8 of an inch on this side. Dead center is 7/8. We're gonna take that 7/8 and mark it on the blank. Now both of our inside of the guide foot marks are exactly 7/8 of an inch away from the center mark. Now, as I just mentioned, this back foot is almost always shorter than this front foot. So to make sure everything's perfectly even and congruent, we are going to measure again from that inside of the guide foot. We're doing a little bit longer of a wrap. I'd say probably a medium-sized underwrap. So we're gonna measure 1 inch exactly from that inside mark. Guides off the blank, now it's time to wrap the underwrap. We will start this method of doing this thread wrap by cutting off 2 sections of all of the threads we need for each side of the underwrap, as well as a piece for that middle portion. In this underwrap and guide wrap, the meat and potatoes will be a ProWrap black nylon thread, and the accents and shading / fading portions will be gray and silver, ProWrap Color Fast and ProWrap Metallic, all size A. We're doing a 3-color shade on each side plus a piece of metallic right on the inside edge. We begin our wrap just outside our first pencil mark, and to make it easy for us, we will use tape to tape down this first piece of thread. We start this wrap with 4 turns of our lightest color on the shade. After that 4th turn, we're gonna introduce our second lightest color, that medium gray. At the tag end of the second color under what is your main line right now, going towards the way you're wrapping. Hold your new color in your hand lightly as you hold your first color very tight still. 2 revolutions next to each other. Pull the tag end of your new color, hold it semi-tight. Let the first color go, only leaving 1 revolution, taking away that second. 5 turns of your next color, and then pull 1 turn back, tension on the threads to essentially pack what you've done so far. Gonna pull our piece of tape off and introduce the final darkest color in the shade / fade. And do the same thing we did with the last color. Now we introduce our main color, which is black. Do the same thing you've been doing. After 4 revolutions of the black nylon, you're gonna introduce metallic silver in the same manner. Do 1 revolution or turn of that in 1 swift motion, and then continue with the black nylon. You're gonna tighten and pack up all of these threads, pull them tight but not too tight from each side. And we are going to slice them off. All of the tag ends. And continue to wrap. Now we're gonna get on the power wrapper on the foot pedal and go fast. We've just passed our first guide foot marker. We're gonna keep wrapping until we get towards the center mark. As we get a few wraps away, we're gonna introduce our metallic thread, wrap over it, add 1 revolution, 2 turns of black nylon, and then 3 to 4 turns of the metallic, pull it under, go 2 more revolutions with the black nylon, and add 1 revolution of the metallic once again. Carefully cut your tag ends and continue to wrap. When we get right past our backside guide foot marker, we're gonna do a little hack so you're measuring on your overwrap where you put your guide is perfect. We're gonna add 1 band of a much lighter color thread. And that is exactly where your guide foot will go, or will end. So you don't have to measure again, you just put it right there and you're good to go. One might think that the fade at the beginning of this underwrap would be done the same way as the end of the underwrap. It's a little bit different because we started the fade on this side. On this side, we're ending the fade, which requires a few different techniques. First, we're gonna measure the whole decorative portion of the fade from our lightest color to our metallic trim band. And we are gonna make a mark on this side so we know exactly where to start our decorative portion. So again, we're perfectly even. When we get up to that mark, that signifies the beginning of our decorative portion on this side. First thing we're gonna do this time is introduce our metallic thread. 2 revolutions, let the metallic go back 1 so it locks itself down and creates 1 revolution. Pack and tighten those threads, and then after 4 revolutions or turns of the black nylon, we are going to introduce our darkest color of our shade. And essentially repeat the same process until our last 4 wraps, which are our lightest color of this shade / fade. Right before we do our final 4 revolutions of our lightest color, we introduce a pull thread. Two, 3, 4, 5, pull them back 1 time, equals 4. Tidy up any loose ends, pull things tight. Take your razor blade and cut right up to the edge of that wrap, being very careful not to cut the blank. And you will not cut the blank if you have a sharp razor blade. It will just cut your threads. Once you've trimmed up all your tag ends, you've finished your under wrap. And now we have to epoxy at least 1 or 2 coats just on this under wrap by itself before we can do the over wrap over the guide feet. We have 1 coat of epoxy on this under wrap. We've used a razor to cut off any burrs or any inconsistencies. So on our next epoxy, it is perfectly smooth. Now we are going to wrap over these guide feet with our main black nylon thread. And as you can see right here, this guide foot goes a little bit over the white line I used to mark where the guide foot should go. But I measured it out, everything is exactly perfect. That's just to kind of give me an idea of where it should be. Something ended up a little off, but it's okay, because everything is perfectly spaced out from the inside of the guide foot to the edge of the under wrap on either side, and the inside of the guide wrap to the center decorative piece on the guide wrap in the middle. Now, let's wrap. We started this over wrap about 8 turns away from the edge of the metallic, but where you start doesn't matter as much because we're using black nylon on the over wrap, which will blend perfectly into the black nylon on the under wrap. And you'll only see the edges of the epoxy, not where the thread starts on the over wrap. Now we wrap the back foot the same way as we wrapped the front foot. Now we will epoxy the whole entire wrap, the under wrap, the over wrap, everything. Then after that, we will do 2 more coats on just the over wrap guide wraps from the inside of the guide foot to the outside of the under wrap. If there's any imperfections in between coats of epoxy, correct them and do another coat to make sure your under wrap is perfect. It's a few days later, a few coats of epoxy later, and this under wrap and the whole guide is ready to fish. And that is everything you need to know about how to do under wraps on fishing rods the Jake Hutchison way.
Is that it?
Sounds like it was before.
Oh.
Whoa, whoa.
Back. All right. Sorry. All right. Cool. Thanks, Jake.
Almost finished that book.
Perfect. That's good. Yeah, you were into War and Peace there a little bit. Awesome. All right. So, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do instead of thread.
Okay.
All right. So we've got abalone. You got snakeskin. You can do, and again, when I say thread, I'm talking metallic thread, regular nylon, color fast. That's all good,
Yep,
right?
all thread.
Now, this is kind of a cool piece that I wanted to show here because this is kind of a mix of a bunch of different options, okay? Under this guide, or in this guide wrap, there are pieces of abalone that are cut into strips, okay? These are varying colors of abalone under and around black nylon. So this is all black nylon under here, and then we've got some abalone.
It's a little dark.
Yeah, because it's all black.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could put something behind it. But.
Anyway, so, no, that's not going to work. Anyway, so work in some abalone, honestly. And you don't have to add any thread. You can take and cut abalone. This one, we've kind of cut into a number of different pieces. This is the orange that we've cut. You can cut it up and just figure out the length of the foot of the guide and use just abalone instead of thread. And it really, really makes for a great look. Or, as we were talking earlier, this is snakeskin, right? We've shown you how to put a little piece, a long piece. You can use just color preserver, as we used here without finish on it yet. I still, on any under wrap, whether it's snakeskin, abalone, thread, I'm still putting a layer of finish down before I put that guide on there. So all you have to do is make sure that your turbo guide's not going to overhang. Oh, yep.
That one's almost perfect, look like.
It is. So like that turbo guide there would be really perfect, right? I know it's a little hard to see because I'm holding it, but so that would be virtually perfect. And then you're just going to wrap over it like anything else. So there you go. And yes, for those that were asking, that was a hairband. I think there was a lot of different, let's see. Yeah, David, what's he holding the guide on there with? Yep, looks like a hair tie. It was a hair tie just threaded through itself and pulled tight. So that was awesome. And remember, we like to joke around with each other in here, so it's all good fun. And we appreciate that. That was, Phil, what'd you say that was? He knocked that out in probably 45 minutes or so, starting and stopping, and then you edited it down. That was great. I love that. All right. Corey asked, can you do heat shrink for your underwraps? You can, but I haven't put finish over heat shrinks before.
Yeah, and the first thought that came to my mind was, you're going to have to get that thread over the lip of shrink wrap, which shrink wrap is going to be a little bit thicker material than just a single layer of thread. Probably, you could do it, but that'd be my worry, is trying to get that thread over the.
Yeah, and I've never, like I said, I've never shown, or I've never seen finish over heat shrink, so I'd be a little, I just don't know. But all right, so I think, did we cover all that we wanted to cover? I know we got some Q&A here coming up.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Get over here.
Is that the one with the black thread that's kind of like messy but on purpose?
Oh, I was going to do that.
Sweet. Yeah. Okay. So a fun little trick. I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but if you use nylon, you cannot do this with Color Fast. You can do this with black nylon. So regular nylon, if you're using ProWrap, it's 862. You can go wild when you overwrap this guide wrap, okay? It does not have to be perfect, burnished, side-by-side thread work, because nylon black, especially when you're using it on or around a solid black blank, it will blend in like perfectly dark gloss black, like you painted it, okay? So this has probably 2 layers of nylon black wrap, like down and back and whatever. And I don't know if you can really see it, but it's not perfect by any stretch. And it would be embarrassing if you used anything other than black nylon. But the black nylon will turn just perfect gloss, jet black, like you painted it. So if you are having to wrap over big giant guides, like this one I showed you earlier, this is blue, so you can't do it with blue. But with this blank being gloss, if these blue overwraps were black, I could have just held the spool of thread and turned the power wrapper on high and just gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you would have never known. I put finish on it, and it's perfectly jet black. You'd never see it, and you don't have to burnish. You don't have to do any of that stuff. So, yep.
Cool.
Give it a shot.
All right, I think we have a lot of questions.
All right, is it time for 7 minutes in heaven with questions? With
Rapid fire Q&A.
Rapid fire Q&A. All right, put 7 minutes. Put 7 minutes on it. Let's go back and see.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, we had taken care of some of these. Oh, how about this? For my L843, I called in, and Hunter actually answered the phone, and to my surprise, did not hand the call over. What took my order and helped me out on shipping as well. Pretty cool experience.
I don't think that was me. We have a few other
Oh,
hunters
man,
here.
you
So
should have
I
just
can't take
owned it. You should have
credit.
just
I can't
owned
take
it.
credit. I can't.
Oh, no. All right, does it matter what material of underwrap thread is used? Nylon under nylon, polyester under nylon, silk under nylon. That polyester, you got to be careful sometimes. If those polyesters have like coatings and stuff on it, kind of like braided fishing line or something like that, just be careful. But no, you can use different materials. You can use nylon over color fast over nylon. Just remember, nylon, if not used with color preserver, that I don't do, it's going to change colors on you. Now, I will use the black nylon as an overwrap a lot because, like I said before, we can cheat. What about for flipping and pitching? Do you ever do it?
I don't. You know, like I mentioned earlier, freshwater side of things, if we're talking like musky, striper rods, flipping and pitching, I don't see it being a necessary thing.
Yeah. All right, well, go ahead, answer it. When are
All right.
the G2, Pro G2 Ultimates going to be back?
Next shipment is early June.
All right. How about this? Slow pitch rods, they flex a lot, take on heavy fish, but should be light, under wrap or not. I'm under wrapping those.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, out near the tip, I am using a single foot a lot of the time because you cannot put a lot of pressure on the rod per se. You're fighting the fish when you are slow pitch jigging off the reel mostly. But the first couple double foot spinning guides, if you're throwing it spinning, or if you are spiral wrapping a conventional, I'm going to put an under wrap on those because they do flex a lot. So there is a lot of deflection in that blank. But I don't do it out near the tip because probably at least a third of that rod is straight up and down. And, you know, when you're fishing it. Let's see, can you do an under wrap and epoxy it when it's tacky and rotating isn't needed anymore? Can you set guides into tacky epoxy and then wrap over after it's cured? I don't like to do that. Reason being is I think you got a really good chance of messing up your finish. You're not going to be able to burnish your thread and do things like that because that thread is going to want to dig in to the finish and it's not going to want to move and burnish. Now, I guess if you use the black nylon thread trick, you know, it probably doesn't matter, but, you know, it is what it is. Lighter saltwater rod, I'm redoing it for a friend. It looks like it was white paint under the guides. Would an under wrap be the best way to cover it? Yeah, I would just do, you know, a really, really light under wrap in whatever color you want, put some thin finish on it, and then go back on the top of it. This one we talked about this. Is it better to center the under wrap on the guide ring or center between the rod foot or between the foot? I think it's really going to depend on what type of guide. If you've got a turbo, like this one here, hold that one up. The guide ring is way out on the front. If you're going to center it, maybe center it on this bridge here, or just center it between the feet. You know, so many of the guides, you know, if you centered it right here on this bridge, that's probably okay, but then that's also probably right between the foot. If it was on the guide ring, it would be a mess. Or if you've got some of these angled type guides, it's such, you know, it's swung one way or the other, it's not in between the feet. So be careful with that. I would just start doing it in between the guide feet. Let's see. What about fast cure finish on an under wrap? Do you think it matters?
I mean, it would probably be fine. You know, like I'm not sure exactly what fast cure finish, you know, means, but I would stick to just a high build, medium, or a low build thread finish and just be done with it.
Yeah. I had some finish that did not cure right. How can I remove it and redo it without messing up the blank? Now, when you say it's not cured right, if it's like really sloppy and dripping off still, then you've got to remove it and start over. But if it's just like barely tacky, you think it's just not 100% cured out, you can just remix some finish and go right back over the top with just like a super ultra thin coat and you'll be good to go. How about that? My advanced kit was delivered on Friday. Looking forward to setting it up and getting started. Static test prior to starting this, right? Mark, we do static test, deflection, guide markings, all of that stuff before we get into all of this. Once you start putting under wraps and finish and all this kind of stuff, you're kind of set. Like those guides are going to be where that you're putting them. So this is definitely, you're going to want to deflect it. I'm new to this. What is finish?
Finish, so thread finish. That's going to be what you apply to your thread in order to seal it and protect it. Yeah.
Any different or special recommendations for surf rods?
I would definitely do underwraps on surf rods. Typically, most of your surf rods are going to be double foots all the way out.
Yeah.
You know, you're dealing with, you know, sometimes up to a size 50 guide, you know, in a very conventional Kona flight setup.
Yep.
I'd underwrap every single one of them.
Yep. For
As
sure.
long as they're double foot, of course.
Yeah, as long as they're double foot. All right, how about this? Little off topic. What's the best spinning rod to start with for bass fishing? We all know the answer.
SJ42.
SJ842. We were catching stripas in June of, is that 2 years ago? June will be 2 years. They want to see the thread runner. This is the thread runner. Hunter, you want to talk about that just real quick?
Yeah, so this little nifty tool or piece of equipment is super cool. If you guys are using a 4-spool or a two-spool thread carriage, which is going to be on the opposite side that you're working on as far as the track goes, this thread runner is meant to go on the side that you are working on.
Yep.
So that way you can essentially, have that thread come off your thread carriage, go to the thread runner, and that way the thread is closer to you. It's on the side you're working on. It's much more, it's easier to wrap with and much more manageable.
It's got, magnets in it too.
Yep.
And yes, you can use a tension rod with the thread runner if you would like.
Sure.
So the thread runner is very, very, very handy little deal there as well. And I'm just going to hit this one too. Have you ever tried a tiger wrap as an under wrap? Reason I'm bringing this to light here is the tiger wrap has so many layers of thread and so many layers of finish. I think it's just going to be too much, because that's the question. Too much? Question mark. I think it's going to be too much. So anyway, that's that. Somebody did have a question about how tight of an under wrap. I set the tension on an under wrap just as I set tension on guide. I really don't change it. You could technically go tighter on the tension for an under wrap because you're not having to worry about the guide foot and doing things like that, but I just set the tension as it should be set for a guide wrap and let her rip. All right.
Boom.
That's it. A little overtime, but we're all right. Hour and 33 minutes. Let's give the last giveaway away. Right?
Yes.
We still got a giveaway, right?
Yep.
Giveaway number 9? Is that it?
9, 10, 11?
Yeah.
One of those, yeah. Decorative thread wrap assortment.
Yep.
So that's going to be just an assortment of all kinds of...
Nice. Somebody said paracord for an under wrap. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
It's like a shark
Couldn't live with
rod.
that.
Hello. Birdman's in the building.
All right, who's the grand prize winner for tonight? Bill Tucker, YouTube.
I feel like I've seen that
Easy
name.
names tonight. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
you
a
got
big
off
fan,
easy.
Big fan.
Phil's back there. He's got it all rigged. Nice. Congratulations, Bill. And again, live at mudhole.com. And we will, that one's going to be an assortment. So you're not going to have too many choices on that one, Bill. But don't worry, we'll make it worth your while. Congratulations to all of our winners. We had Eric leading it off with the core wrapper kit. So we're going to get that out to you. Eric, remember, if you're still with us, hopefully you are, live at mudhole.com. So I can get your info, and for everybody that won, t-shirt winners and things like that, congratulations. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. This was episode 97. I know we had Steve in the building. I know Hoffman was helping. We had Birdman here earlier, of course. Jake is, I don't know, he still might be working on that under wrap, but he's here for sure. I think I mentioned Steve. We had Cool Man over here on the Zoom camera. Uncle Phil on the 1s and 2s. My left-hand man, as always, Hunter McCamey. The next show topic, all right, we're going to be doing some repairs because we've had some people asking about repairs. It's going to be guide repair. That's going to be episode 98, and that's going to be Tuesday, May 23rd. We'll probably even have a special guest in here. We're gonna do guide repair with Guy Repairy. I almost got through that one. Guide repair with Guy Repairy. So yeah, that'll be episode 98. 6:30 Eastern as always. Tuesday, May 23rd. We'll be back here in the penthouse. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We will see you in May. And as always, keep those questions. And yeah, Edward, we got something special planned for 100. So just stick it out. It's not that much longer. I want to say June will be the anniversary, 7 years maybe? We're gonna miss it by one. So episode 100 will be in July, I think. But yeah, we're gonna do something. I am gonna melt Hunter's credit card for 100.
I'm going to take out a new
I
line of credit.
promise you. Yeah, exactly. We might have to get Steve's card in here too. So, all right, everybody. Thank you again. That was Under Wraps, and we're done. Episode 97.
Thanks for watching.
Have a good one.